Sharks fans around the world, welcome to our 30th Teal mini-series where we are continuing to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the San Jose Sharks, even though the 30th anniversary season has, of course, now come to an end. It's June, and originally this was supposed to be the last show in the series, because the idea of this mini-series, when I was working on it at the beginning of the 1920 season, the idea was to do this throughout the 30th anniversary season. So we would start October and work our way up to June, regardless of if the Sharks qualify for the postseason or not. But of course, because obviously COVID came to play, it meant that everything obviously went down the drain, and I personally thought, well, I'm going to have a year-long celebration instead of just a season celebration. So that obviously meant I thought we'll do the whole thing in 2021. So it means now we're going to have a weird little break coming up. Not this month, but next month, because I've managed to find a topic for July. So we've got a July coming up, which we'll talk about what that is at the end of today's show. But it does mean we're going to have a weird little break coming up in August and September, because I've not been able to find anything for those yet. If I had, then that's great. We'll be able to do something, but I've not managed to find any of them yet. But yeah, so we'll have to see how that goes. So it's June. Today, I told you the last show was a bit of a bittersweet moment. This is kind of another bittersweet moment, but this one stings a bit more because we know what came after this. But it's Game 3 of the 2016 Stanley Cup Final against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, we all know how the final ended, okay? There is no sugarcoating it. There is no sugarcoating what happened. And for me, I don't know about you, my fellow Sharks fans, but for me, it's a heartache that really does sting, because I kind of feel, when you look back on the Sharks playoff run as a whole in 2016, I kind of felt we had one of our best runs ever. We did, and you know, it could have been our year. If we had a different team, it could have been our year. Same goes for Nashville the following year after. If they had a different team, they could have won that year. And 2016-17 could have been first time champs for the West in both us and the Preds, but of course it wasn't to be. Because many people who are that familiar with the Stanley Cup, what they don't really understand is how hard it is to just get into the final. It is so hard to do to get into that final. Qualifying is straightforward, but getting all the way into the final, that is the trickiest bit. That is the trickiest bit to get it. And it's even more tricky to do it 2 years in a row. Some teams have, over the course of the league's, 100 years, 105 now. It's getting there. Some teams have, but more recently, entering the 21st century, it's been quite hard to see teams go into the final 2 years in a row. We've already seen it. We've already seen it one or two times. So you've got to make the most of the opportunity where you can. And if we look back on those first 2 games, I think Game 1 was a bit okay. We're dealing with the fact it's our first on the final. But I always look back and I always think Game 2, that's the one for me that stings the most. Not Game 6, which was obviously the heartbreaker. But for me, Game 2 stings the most. Because if we'd won that one, then this whole series could have been a completely different story. But of course, yeah. But yeah, so let's go for it. The reason I picked Game 3 is because I wanted to pick a nice thing from the 2016 Stanley Cup Final. I mean, obviously, Game 5 was a nice thing too, but I wanted to pick Game 3 because Game 3, as Sharky will tell you, has more meaning. It has more meaning because for the Sharks, and for Orbis and Thursday, this was a big moment, Game 3. Despite the fact that we were down 2-0 in the series, this was still a big moment for Sharks hockey. The first time we were ever going to host the Stanley Cup Final. And I think for me, if we look back on the actual day, I remember not thinking about the series in Game 3. I wasn't thinking about the series. I was thinking more about the fact how much this means to me, for my team, obviously for the CSRs. I was focusing more on that because this was a huge accomplishment. Like I've talked about so many times, we've come close so many times before 2016 and post 2016, getting to the finals of the conferences, but just never be able to quite get over the hurdle. So to be able to do it in 2016 was a massive achievement. And that's why I always will look back at Game 6 of the West Coast Final as my favourite from that year. I always look on it back, which of course we talked about last time, which you could go and watch and listen back to. But for me, this was a big moment, and so I remember on the actual day, I wasn't focusing on the overall series. I was focusing on what this meant to us as a franchise and as a city, because this was a big deal for Saturday. And you could just feel the emotion that was there from the get-go, from the opening, obviously from the intro, which you can watch on YouTube. In fact, I am going to put the link to that in the description, because I would recommend you go and watch that back. I've watched it back plenty of times. So I'm gonna put a link to that in the episode description because I would love you to go watch it. It's amazing, and you can just feel the atmosphere. And for watching that alone, you can just tell how much it means to a Sharks fan like myself. So, let's go through the game summary. So, this was basically a game. Game 3 was basically a game of cat and mouse. One team scored, other team ties it. One team scores, other team ties it. And unfortunately for us Sharks, we were the mouse for the whole way through until it got to overtime. And I think this showed just how we haven't really had that much experience when it comes to the fight. You could tell for the Sharks this was their first time in the Stanley Cup Final, just by seeing what was going on the ice within the first sort of like, the whole series really. But they really tried the whole way through, unlike other teams. Yeah, so it was a real cat and mouse. But I think when you look at the scoring summary, you can tell how close it was for the whole way through. Well, apart from the through, even though in the second period the Penguins did get a goal in that period, it was very, very close at all. So I'll take you through the game summary first, and then we'll go through the scoring summary. So in terms of the game summary, so then Lovejoy started off the scoring in Game 3 at 5:29 the first period when his point shot deflected in off Roman Polak. Sharks tied at 9:34 on a Justin Braun goal. And then midway through the second period, the Penguins took the lead back when Patrick Hornquist tipped in another Lovejoy point shot. In the third period, Nick Border on high stick Joe Fulton, and as the dying seconds of the 4-minute power play, Joel Ward fired a slap shot past Matt Murray to tie the game, and at the overtime, Donskoi routed a tough angle shot over Matt Murray's shoulder for the game winner. We'll talk about that game winner in a moment. But right, so let's go through the scoring summary. So scoring 5:13:29 by 29 of the first period. Beth Lovejoy unassisted for his second of the postseason. Then at 9:34 that first period, so it's roughly 4 minutes later, Sharks tie it thanks to Justin Braun got his second of the postseason with Joe Thornton and Mark-Edouard Vlasic getting the credited with the assists. The second period was a real tight affair. Both teams had plenty of chances, but it wasn't until 53 seconds to go Penguins got the lead back, thanks to Patrick Hornquist, with 8th overall in the postseason, with getting assists bound Ben Lovejoy and Olli Mattia. Then, as I mentioned, on the power play in the third period at 8:48, Joe Ward, 7th of the postseason for him, with Donskoi and Joe Thornton credited with the assists. And then Donskoi in the overtime got his 6th of the postseason, with Chris Tierney credited with the assist. That was at 12:18 of the overtime period. We'll get to that in a moment, but I will continue the summary, though, because I'm going to go through penalties. There's only really about 3. So, in terms of power play opportunities, both teams didn't really get that much. This was kind of one of those games where the officials basically put their whistles away. But in terms of power play, the Sharks had the better of opportunities. They got 2 opportunities, while Pittsburgh had 1. Pittsburgh's lone power play came at 2:58 of the first period, when Joel Ward for your Sharks took a 2-minute minor for high sticking. The Sharks' first power play came in the second period, where at 10:39, the Penguins' Carl Hagelin took a 2-minute minor for tripping, and then I mentioned the third, the Pittsburgh 4-minute major high sticky to Nick Bishboren at 4:48 the third period was what helped the Sharks tie that game up, and it was literally in the dying seconds of that 4-minute major the goal went in. So it was a knife edge of the power play there. Shots on goal. We'll do it period by period. So in the first period, for Penguins 14, for Sharks 6. In the second period, for the Penguins 6, for your Sharks 9. And then in the third period, for the Penguins 13, for the Sharks 7. In the overtime period, Pittsburgh had 9 shots on goal, the Sharks had 4 shots on goal. So you add them all up, the Sharks overall had 26 shots on goal in Game 3, while the Penguins had 42 shots on goal in Game 3. Right. Let's discuss the Jonas Donskoi goal. Because, oh my god. What a goal! Oh my god. Let me see if I can find it. Just because I want to try and play the audio, because it was a blinder. Because let me tell you something. There's been plenty of moments in Sharks history where the roof on SAP Centre has been blown off. And in fact, we've even talked about one of those a few of those moments actually. Obviously, our last show, the 2016 Western Conference Final. Game 6 winner. And of course, a couple of months back, we discussed the Game 7 bonanza over Vegas. That really took the roof off. But I don't think either of those 2 moments have compared with the moment when Jonas Donskoi literally fired that shot in to get the winner in Game 3. So I'm gonna play some audio now, okay? Hopefully it will have to call, because our public address there went absolutely wild when this happened, calling this goal. So hopefully we'll have it on. I'm just gonna buy around paper and we won. But I just want you to kind of feel the atmosphere that was felt when this goal went in. Okay? Because there's been plenty of other times in Sharks history where the roof of SCP has been lifted off, but none more than this. So okay.
I see a future where there's no pollution.
No idea on YouTube is I had adverts.
He lost his glove and his stick.
There goes the goal. Managed to win the game and put ourselves back in the series because Pittsburgh thought easily score. We've got them, we've got this team, and then we throw this game winner and go, we're not going down quietly. Right. It's bedlam. It's absolute bedlam. There we go. So hopefully you have got the set filled out. Oh, apologies to stand in this out for now because I was playing with my on YouTube. Yeah, but I just wanted to play that moment. You know, you already heard the audio. I wanted to sort of play that moment because it was absolute bedlam. Like I said, there's been plenty of moments in Sharks history where the roof of the SP Centre has been lifted off. Two of them, of course, we have covered on this mini-series so far, but none as compared to that moment, because as I was saying throughout the video, that was the goal that got us back in the series. I mean, if you look into them going, right, if in 2016 you looked at these two teams before the game finals was started and thought Pittsburgh would get this, well, here is the opportunity for us Sharks fans to say, yeah, we're not going down that easy, okay? Yes, we are considered as the underdog team here, because obviously Pittsburgh been in the final, what, how many times have we been in? This is our first go. But we're not going down out of fight. It's like I keep saying throughout my 12 years as a Shark, we don't go down easily, and never, ever underestimate a Shark. Never underestimate us. As I keep saying, I need to get this from on a t-shirt. Never, ever underestimate a San Jose Shark. Never. Because you do that at your peril. Okay? Literally, you do it at your own peril. But this was the moment that got us back into the series. And really, the mindset is, well, you win game 4. It's series tied. And it's a brand new series. And the possibilities are still there. They are still alive. But as we know now, it went the other way. But yeah, so this was a brilliant moment. So you can see why I wanted to choose this game to cover, because obviously we could cover game 5, but this had more meaning. This had more meaning because obviously of the game and what happened on the ice, but also off the ice, how much this meant to us as a franchise, you know, and you could feel it from that opening intro, which I'll say, I'm going to put a link to it in the description because you can watch it on YouTube, and I would recommend you go and watch it. Watch it. And so if you're not a Sharks fan, you'll be able to understand what it means to us. But yeah, so it was just an amazing moment. And it was kind of really the only time we actually really got to celebrate, because the whole series was an absolute nervous wreck, I was. It was just tense from the get-go. So this was kind of like the only moment we could really celebrate, because it meant that we got to win a Stanley Cup Final game for the very first time. On our first trip to the final. Not many teams can say they can do that. Even teams that have now won the Stanley Cup, like for example, let me go and get him. Like for example, a certain little polar bear, for example, Louis. Oh, I know. For example, in one of the Blues, hang on, bring him up. In the Blues' first 3 trips to the final, they never won a Stanley Cup Final game. They got swept in all 3. Didn't you, Louis? Didn't you? You did. So, race guy's gone! So the fact that we were able to win a Stanley Cup Final game in our first trip to the final, we're still, the potential of to win one is still hanging in the balance. It was just brilliant. Because quite a lot of other teams in their first years of the final, yes, they may now end up winning cups down the line, but some teams, like for example the Blues, in their first year didn't even win a Stanley Cup. First trip, I didn't even win a Stanley Cup that game, so that in itself was a huge accomplishment. So yeah, so this game, it was an amazing game and it's a brilliant one to look back on. It was just amazing to look back on as a whole, and even though what happened next wasn't great, this was. Okay, I think we'll leave it there. So thank you so much for watching. Now, we have got another episode coming up. Because like I said, the idea was to do this throughout the whole hockey season, throughout the hockey season of the 30th anniversary season, but of course, COVID came to play, and so I decided, well, we'll do it as a year celebration. So, even though technically now the 30th anniversary season is over, I'm still for the 2021 still having a party, because we should. So yeah, so now we have got a July episode for you guys. We're going to look back on the 2005 Nhl Draft. Because that did take place in July of 2005, and I really couldn't find anything else that happened for Sharks hockey in July. I did try, but I hadn't, so I thought, well, let's go for it. And we're going to look back on that draft, and we're going to look at the Sharks draft picks for that year and see how they've done. So that's what we're going to got coming in July. And then after that, I think we might have a little break until October, unless I can find anything newsworthy Sharks related that happened in August and September. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I'm going to still try to look. But I'll let you know when we record the July episode if I have found something. If I have, I'll let you know. If not, I'll just tell you when we'll be back, because we'll be back in October if we can't open them. Yeah. So, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Teal podcast. What are you waiting for? I know, Sharky, I know. We've done 3 seasons now. We're gearing up for our 4th in October. What are you waiting for? And we are literally everywhere. We are wherever you get your podcast. Chances are we are there. So you've got no excuses to not subscribe. Just subscribe to the podcast. We will listen to every single episode we've made so far, including the podcast versions of this 30-minute horror mini-series, because we do it as a podcast version as well as a YouTube vid. So subscribe to the podcast, rate and review the podcast, and of course, with regards to my YouTube channel, click subscribe to that. You haven't already subscribed, because once you are subscribed, you never get to when your podcast comes out, including to report stuff. And drop us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, or what's left for us stays, and so, hallelujah now. Hello, George Han here. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel to stay up to date with all my latest videos. Don't forget to like, send a comment below, and why not stick around to watch a few more? Go on, I highly recommend it.